A fragile peace, the India-Pakistan ceasefire. On May 10, 2025, a sense of relief, however cautious, swept across the Indian subcontinent. India and Pakistan, after days of escalating military action, agreed to a ceasefire. The agreement stipulated an immediate cessation of hostilities, bringing to a halt the most recent chapter in the decades-long conflict between the nuclear-armed neighbors. The ceasefire, announced late Saturday evening, marked a crucial juncture in a relationship perpetually teetering on the brink. The announcement followed a flurry of diplomatic activity. World leaders and international organizations deeply concerned by the escalating tensions urged restraint and called for dialogue. The specter of a full-blown war between India and Pakistan, a terrifying prospect with potentially catastrophic consequences, loomed large. This was not the first time the two nations had stepped back from the precipice. The history of India-Pakistan relations is littered with agreements, ceasefires, and dialogues, often followed by renewed hostilities. The two countries have fought 3 major wars since their independence in 1947, and countless smaller skirmishes have flared up over the years. The roots of this conflict run deep, entangled in the tumultuous partition of British India and the unresolved status of Kashmir. The two nations have been locked in a bitter dispute over this mountainous region, with both claiming it in its entirety. This territorial dispute has fueled mistrust, animosity, and ultimately, violence for over 7 decades. The ceasefire agreement, while undoubtedly a positive development, was shrouded in a fog of conflicting narratives and claims of external mediation. President Trump, in a televised address, announced the ceasefire as a direct result of successful U.S. mediation efforts. He praised both Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Khan for their commitment to peace, and lauded the role played by the United States in bringing the two sides together. India, however, was quick to reject any suggestion of third-party involvement. Indian officials maintained that the ceasefire was a result of direct bilateral negotiations between New Delhi and Islamabad, with no outside mediation. Pakistan, on the other hand, publicly thanked the United States, particularly President Trump, Vice President Vance, and Secretary of State Rubio, for their role in facilitating the ceasefire. Adding to the confusion, a Pakistani government source revealed that Secretary of State Rubio had played a monumental role in bridging the divide and persuading both sides to agree to the ceasefire. This statement further muddied the waters, raising questions about the true nature of the negotiations and the extent of U.S. involvement. The conflicting narratives surrounding the ceasefire agreement highlight the deep-seated mistrust that continues to plague India-Pakistan relations. Even in a moment of apparent progress, suspicions linger, and each side remains wary of the other's motives and actions. The ink on the ceasefire agreement was barely dry when accusations of violations began to surface. Within hours of the announcement, both India and Pakistan accused each other of breaking the agreement. India's Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri claimed that there had been repeated violations by Pakistani forces along the line of control, the de facto border dividing Kashmir. Pakistan vehemently denied these allegations. Pakistan's Information Minister Ataullah Tarar dismissed India's claims as baseless and fabricated, asserting that Pakistan was fully committed to upholding the ceasefire. The accusations and counter-accusations underscored the fragility of the peace and the deep-rooted mistrust that continues to plague the relationship. Looming over the ceasefire is the specter of Kashmir, the unresolved issue at the heart of the India-Pakistan conflict. The recent escalation in hostilities was triggered by a tragic event in April 2025, the massacre of tourists in Pahalgam in Indian-administered Kashmir. India blamed the attack on Pakistan-based terrorists, accusing Islamabad of harboring and supporting militant groups operating in the region. Pakistan, as it has done consistently, denied any involvement in the attack. The Pahalgam massacre, a grim reminder of the human cost of the Kashmir conflict, pushed tensions to a boiling point, ultimately leading to the military escalation and subsequent ceasefire. The international community, which had watched the escalating tensions with growing alarm, breathed a collective sigh of relief at the announcement of the ceasefire. The G7 foreign ministers, in a joint statement, welcomed the ceasefire and urged both India and Pakistan to exercise maximum restraint and take immediate steps to de-escalate the situation. The European Union echoed these sentiments, calling for dialogue and a peaceful resolution to the conflict. China, a neighbor to both India and Pakistan and a rising global power, expressed deep concern over the situation and urged both sides to resolve their differences through dialogue and negotiation. The United Kingdom, a former colonial power in the region, welcomed the ceasefire and offered to play a constructive role in facilitating dialogue between the two countries. Pope Leo XIV, in his Sunday address at the Vatican, expressed his relief at the ceasefire and prayed for lasting peace in the region. The global response to the India-Pakistan crisis highlighted the international community's recognition of the high stakes involved and the potential for a localized conflict to escalate into a wider conflagration. Despite the ceasefire, significant challenges remain. The Indus Water Treaty, a crucial agreement governing the sharing of water resources from the Indus River system, remains suspended by India. India's decision to suspend the treaty, taken in the aftermath of the Pahalgam attack, has further strained relations and raised concerns about the potential for future conflict over water resources. The ceasefire, while a positive step, represents only a fragile beginning. The path ahead is fraught with challenges and the specter of mistrust continues to haunt the relationship. Whether this ceasefire holds, paving the way for meaningful dialogue and a lasting peace, or proves to be yet another temporary reprieve in a long-running saga of conflict and mistrust, remains to be seen.